Hello and welcome back. Hopefully this is streaming. A few days ago I started a stream to try and build a 1/4 SPM design, and let's go to map view because let's go to map view. Where are we? Here. Okay, so oh, there's no radars. Right, do we have radars? Let's get some radars. All right. There we are. That's better. All right. So, we mocked up red science. That turned out to be really simple. 1/4 SPM is just 2 red science machines. You can share a gear machine between them. You can actually drive the whole thing off a single copper and a single iron smelter. So, trivial, really. The green science build needs 3 machines. It's a bit more complicated. So you need 1 copper smelter, but you actually need 3 iron smelters to keep everything going. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 items which consume iron. So what I could have done is direct feed iron into those 4 machines from 4 individual iron smelters, fed in from here from a single copper, and could have brought that in on, say, a 5 carriage train. That would work. So you can imagine this being fed direct from a train, direct through to product. You can imagine this being fed direct through from a train. Okay, this is the blue science build. What's it called these days? They changed all the names. Chemical science. Okay, so this build is a bit more hairy. So, to drive the red circuits which are needed requires 3 copper machines. To drive the green circuit requires 2 iron machines. So again, this could be done on a 5 carriage train that brings in 5 types of ore. But you also need a smelter to drive the gears and the pipes for the engines. Now, again, we probably don't need a full smelter for both because neither machine is running at full speed. Then we need a touch of steel just to get the 1, 2, 3 engine builds going. And so that's 2 iron, 2 steel smelters. Okay, so this is starting to be a bit more complex. We need a bit more of a combination of things. Right, where are we? Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the other screen at the moment. Trying to figure out. I've never worked out how to interact with chat live on streams without having the full stream up, which is annoying. Right. Basic, advanced. Back to basic. I can get a URL for the stream. Other features. Live control room. Let's have a look. Live control room. Okay, so I am not quite... Ah. So I think I've found the place where you can chat and I can see it without me needing to have my own stream being downloaded that I'm uploading. So, all right, we'll try that. Happy Sunday. All right, so I'll try and keep an eye on that, although I'm not used to it. So if anyone does chat, I may miss you. All right, so the next one we were going to do was the purple science, which is called production. Okay, To make this work, we need 3 purple machines. Near enough to drive 3 purple machines, we need 3 rail machines, each of which have their own stick machine. I think they only need half a stick machine each, but then productivity kicks in and various things. So I've given them 1 each because that's nice and simple. We have to go via boxes for this. These produce the iron sticks at, I think it's 6 or 7 times the speed which a red inserter can move them. So they have to be moved via stack inserters via a box. And similarly, we are moving a lot of rail, so via a box. All right, then for the whole build, we need just a fraction over 2 productivity modules, and then about 1/3 less than a full furnace build. We can run this furnace build as fast as it needs to run off 3 stone smelters. So you can imagine a train just direct feeding stone into these 3 until it's done and then driving away. This is our red circuit build. It needs to be about this build or maybe 1 machine shorter. So we pull in green circuits from here, but we put out red circuits onto the same belt. That gives us a split belt of green and reds, which is enough to run these 3 machines. Okay, so that's all fairly straightforward, except there's no smelting for this. And the smelting for this is going to be something like 8 or 10 copper machines. I'm not sure, I haven't counted them. Then we're going to need maybe 1.5 iron machines, maybe more for each of these, and another 2 or 3 copper machines for each of these. So this is now starting to look like quite a lot of iron and copper smelting. In addition to that, the furnaces require steel, and a lot of it, as do the rail. And I think it comes to something like 5.8 or 6.8, I can't remember which, 5.8 5.8 smelting stacks of steel. So these stacks here are double length. I'm just going to run through the build quickly. Okay, so ore comes in here. It's a full 2 lane of ore. It goes into an iron smelter. That then feeds towards this smelter using a box, and this smelter with a long arm. Then this feeds that way and that way. This feeds that way and that way. This feeds that way and that way. The 5th one feeds this way with the slow arm. Get rid of these, they're in the way, go away. And then feeds this way with stack inserter. Now, the reason we do that with a stack inserter rather than using a long arm is this machine is only being fed from one direction. And this produces 1.2 of the plates needed to feed this machine. So 0.2 would be going that way if everything was balancing out nicely. Except if you do the reds, it tends to pull close to 50% both ways. And 50% is not close to 1 versus 0.2. It's far enough away from being similar that this machine gets starved. And then eventually this machine genuinely actually backs up, so it's full, can't smelt, which means that it underruns and compounds the problem of feeding this machine. By putting this little stack inserter stack here, that fixes that problem. This machine is always running at full speed, and then the excess goes this way, and then the middle section here runs at full speed. So this gives us full productivity bonuses. We do this, then we have a second one here, because this half uses 0.48 of a lane of a belt, which is, almost 1 lane. So the whole thing uses almost 2 lanes. Right, so it consumes 0.93 belts of ore, which is pretty good, isn't it? It would produce 1.1 belts worth of iron. Okay, so we're producing more iron than we could put on a belt. But remember that iron is being direct inserted, it never goes onto a belt. Then it goes into the steel smelting. Steel is normally a compression factor of 5. So you get 1/5 of the steel out. However, we are using prod mods, so you actually get out 0.26. So we get out more than 1/4 of a belt of steel from this build, which is pretty good. So to make this over here work, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. Okay, now let's look on the map. This is red, green, blue minus smelting, but smelting would perhaps be the same size again. This is the entire science portion of this build, plus this much smelting, plus maybe 3 times 3 rows again for the iron and the copper, which is needed for the circuits in red. So you can see this build is now much heavier on smelting than on the actual build, whereas these ones, it was the other way around. Nearly all the machines were doing the business rather than smelting. Okay, so I'm in 2 minds now about what to do. There are 3 minds. I can either build and plug all this together, and so there would be a faked in train station this end, we'd have a few extra rows and all that stuff. Alternatively, I could start sketching one of the other sciences. We've got gold left to do, we have space science, we have military, although I don't know if I'm going to do military. So I could do gold science, and we could compare how big the smelting is for the gold science. Now, let's go have a look. So if we go here, this requires 2 iron, 1 copper without prod mods. 5.5 versus 1.5. 24 versus 15. Okay. This is 157, 57.5. The 0.5 obviously makes a difference. Right, this requires 150 copper and 99 iron. Right, so this requires even more smelting. And this is the point where I'm thinking, seriously, these builds are reasonably containable. I can actually imagine these 3 sciences all being fed from a single long train of ore, where you direct insert the ore into furnaces, and then the furnaces feed belts or some other contraptions or direct feed into machines and blah blah blah, and you end up with these 3 potions being made. This clearly requires its own smelting area, with not really any, there's no point doubling up trains here with anything else that's going to be dedicated. And we're probably going to have the same situation with gold science. Okay, so these are relatively big patches. We spawned a megabase friendly world. That's our spawn over here. Okay, what we then did was ran a long way out to here. So we got the occasional giga patch. There you are. Right, and they are large patches. So I can either sketch gold science so that we can get scared about how much smelting is involved. Remember, this is a 1/4 K build. Or we can investigate slightly left field ways of handling the smelting. So let's take a step back. Nearly all of the items which are being moved by the games engine for this scale of build are ore. Second to that, nearly everything is plates. Okay, so if you want to build for efficiency, ideally you would minimize the transport of ore and you would minimize the transport of plates. That means you don't move things until they've been turned into either the final items or intermediate items which massively compress. So red circuits are a good example. A lot of material goes into making a red circuit. So if you can make red circuits at or next door to your mining and your oil well, then you are not moving the materials very far to make that red circuit. So when you actually come to ship the red circuit, it's a massive compression. It's a massive win. Okay. If you think of it in terms of movements of an arm, so an inserter has to pick something up and then put it down. Imagine there is a per arm swing cost to that. If we are arm swinging our entire life with ore, that's a lot of arm swings. If instead we do very little arm swinging with ore, and all of our arm swinging is with the highly compressed items, then that is a really low cost. And in fact, if we can get few enough of the low cost items moving around, we could move all of them by bot. And the cost then is incredibly low. So what I'm wondering is perhaps I should look at better ways to do the mining and smelting first. Because perhaps we can come up with factories which take us through the production chain from mining and smelting. Okay, so I like the idea of working the red-green circuits this way. I like the idea that we are going direct from ore to the science pots. But perhaps there's a better way to do this, where we can have a train come in with ore. So that train could have been filled up directly on an ore patch or a couple of ore patches. It would drive over here, dump the ore in, it would get smelted and turned into pots, and that's all that would ever happen. So there's no movement of material there. Okay, so for this, perhaps we can rework this design where one of two things happens. Either we get rid of the red science build from here so that we have a direct feed from ore trains through to green circuits. Then we could bring in a green circuit train to here and an iron plates train, and that would allow us to go direct from iron plates and green circuits to green potions. So maybe we could do that. And in fact, well, I'm just saying. No, right, if we carry on down to here, now this build, these things consume almost nothing. They consume one solid fuel, 3 red circuits, 2 engines, right? They're almost zero cost. And the engines take a couple of pipes, bit of steel, bit of iron. Okay, red circuits are a bit more tricky. So I'm wondering if there is a way to design a train-based, almost direct insert red circuit build, where maybe we bring in one train east-west and one train north-south, and then in a cube feed those into machines. So maybe we bring in the copper north-south, we bring in iron plates east-west, maybe we bring in petroleum from one of the third sides. Everything then gets made into red circuits. On the fourth side, you take out the red circuits, and feed it all through train to box, train to box to assembler to assembler to assembler, out the other way. Perhaps. I don't particularly want to move gears and pipes around by train because let me show you why. Okay, so one gear takes 0.2 iron plates to make, and in half a second. Right, there is no way that a smelter... it doesn't have a speed on it. Okay, so this is producing 5 plates per second with all the productivity and things. This is capable of consuming 13, so that's 3 smelters worth. And this, in principle, is capable of consuming 20, so that's 4 smelters worth. Okay, so this is 2 plates in for 1 gear out. This is 1 plate in for 1 pipe. For 1 pipe? Yeah, 1 plate in for 1 pipe. Right, so we are not achieving any compression by having a dedicated site for turning plates into pipes. right? We bring in one item, we process it, we send one out. With the gears, it's a 2-to-1. So we bring in one item, we bring in 2 items, and out comes 1 gear. But with prod mods and all that stuff, it's not even that. We get out 1.4 gears. So if we put in 1 item of ore, we get out 1.4 items of plate. Then that would produce a half of 1.4 times 1.4. So that's calculation time. Right, 1.4 star 1.4 divided by 2. 0.98. Right, so we put in 1 unit of ore, we get out 0.98 gears. Nearly 1-to-1. That's not a compression. I am not shipping that material around. Right. Let's move that off. Whereas steel, you put in 1 unit of ore. Sorry, I did that wrong. So it's sorry. Right, it's 1 unit of ore. Goes into plate with a productivity of 1.2. Goes into gears with a productivity of 1.4. But it takes 2 of them to make it. All right, 0.84. Okay, so you gain 15%, which isn't a gain, is it? All right, so then steel, on the other hand. Okay, so steel, we put in 1 ore. That gives us 1 plate. That gives us 0.28 steel. So 1 ore goes to 0.28 steel. That's almost a 2/3 reduction. So 3 trains of ore come in, 1 train of steel goes out. That is a compression. We're winning something there. There's fewer arm movements happening. Now, the other way to look at it is that we should never be shipping plate. So you should either ship ore, or you ship things way down in the intermediates chain. So that would mean making intermediates from ore. Okay, now there are basically 2 ways I can think of to do that. Let's go over to this patch here. Right, let's get some creative power. That's it, and we'll power it up. Good. All right. So the bottom line is we need to mine into the smelter. Okay. And I'm going to fake in a voiding. I'm trying to find the Okay, let's get the stack inserter. Okay. So is this running at full speed? Let's take the ore out. So it's down at 25. Yeah, that runs at full speed. All right, the issue with this, you can probably guess. So this is still running at full speed. And this is without training up very much mining productivity. Right. But this isn't running with full productivity, full beacon coverage. Right. So while it's not terrible, we're not getting the full... We're going to... How do I put this? We need more smelters if we do things this way than if we had smelters surrounded by 12 beacons. Okay, now let's take this. Okay, so that's... Right, this is running at full speed. Okay. So then, yeah, 14 sources, that's right. So then this goes here. We have a box and 2 arms. Okay, let's cap the steel chest at 1 stack because, you know. Right, why is this not running? It's not running because I can't count. Okay. Okay, and that is not good. Okay. So we can mine into a box, and I can cap the box. Okay, and that cannot quite keep up. It's pretty close, but not quite. But that stutter will be enough that we're not running things at full speed. Okay. Just double check this doesn't work either. No. Right, this runs at full speed. Okay, the benefit of this is that this is now collecting several items at once. But right. So that would be our direct ore to smelt. And this appears to be moving near enough at the same speed as this, but it would be moving more items. All right. Now, the issue with this build is because we're co-located, and to an extent with this, because we are co-located with the miner, so we've turned 1 unit of ore into 1.2 units of plate. So then we need to do something with that. For example, turn it into gears, which we've already decided is a bit of a horror show. And we're going to be extremely lucky to find one of these where we can also find some copper to... Right. So, what I'm coming around to in my very slow zigzaggy zaggedy way is that the UPS efficient thing to do is to find an efficient way to mine, to ship the ore to where we can process it, and then to process the ore as far as possible through the production chain before then shipping it on if we need to. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's imagine we had a train line running right through the middle of this ore patch. Okay. Let's put down a train station. Great. And we would probably use 2 trains. Then, what's a good number here? 4 of those. Alright, we're not going to be able to do 8 long trains. Okay. So maybe 2-4, maybe 2-8, 2 or 2-4, 2-4. We could do 2-4, 2-4 because then you can bring in... Well, anyway, it's based around 4, isn't it? Because this length here, which is the business end, this fits nicely right across here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Right, now, I've done these builds a few times now, but I'm going to do it again just to show. Right, so we start off with the mining drill 1 back from center. There we go. Then these all have speed modules. Because when your UPS isn't disappearing on stupid mistakes you've made, and isn't disappearing on useless inserters, or on doing compression wrong, it's going on mining. Alright, so how much can we get out of mining drills? Remember, every 2 beacons we can get to hit one of these is worth 100% additional mining. So, this beacon here hits 4 mining drills, and there are 4 mining drills hitting this here. So that's worth 2 extra mining drills. Now, I know there's speed module in these, so the maths isn't quite correct, but we'll go with that. Right, so then if we put another one down, let's not even put it there. Okay, so if we put another one down, that's another mining drill. So that's now worth 3 mining drills. 4 mining drills. So this 1 mining drill is worth... Alright, and that's too far over. That's it. So we need to find the right staggering of these. Okay, and the staggering is to put them like this. Okay, so this is near enough the most efficient packing of beacons around mining drills. Okay, so these mining drills have 11 effect sources because they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they have 8 beacons, and then they've got 3 inside. So that's 400%, 550% speed bonus. So that's almost like having 6 mining drills. 5.5 mining drills. Awesome. Now we can power all of this up. Okay, so that bridges. The issue with that is more about between lines. So let's do that. I've got a feeling this whole thing is wider than can be bridged by power cables, right? So I would need to stride something like that if I wanted to stack these. So the next best thing is to go for this. Okay. And it goes like that and that. Okay, so this can be tiled. If I copy this, we could put one there. Ah, no, not quite, because we have an off by one tile issue. All right, so let's move that back one. Yep, that's it. So that tiles. I can't move this beacon up. Let me show you. Do you see there it hits the bottom two mining drills, but there it doesn't. So it has to go next to the path there. So this has to be the one that's lifted. Okay, and then this does tile. Okay, so there's 5. I don't need 5, let's do 4 just because it's a nicer number. Alright, so what else? Let's power this up because I hate the flashing. That's better. Alright, now let's have a look here. Right. So it's being fed by 2 mining drills and it's filling up that quickly. This is the only iron mining we're doing, I think. Let's double check. Right, let's head back. Yeah, I disabled all the mining there. So here we are. All right, just a minute. Got a lot of map uncovered. Did I put down standard mining drills? Sorry. They're Big Brother radars. Okay, that explains it. Okay, but anyway, so these are mining at 2.2k. So that means every just slightly under 2 minutes. I think each train carriage takes 4k. Let's double check. Right, so 50 to a stack. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So 1,000, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. So 2,000 ore per train. And just over 2,000 ore per minute. So it takes 1 minute. Yeah, it takes 1 minute to fill a train at this speed. Well, you can do it faster with arms, with buffered chests, but I'll take 1 minute. That's fine. I tend to work on the principle that things which are time critical need to happen within a minute, and things which are about buffering need to happen 10 minutes. So we'll go with 1 minute. Okay. So every 1 minute we can fill a train, and depending on the size of the ore patch, it can be a 4 carriage or an 8 carriage or a bigger, and we could stagger train stops. Right, so we could put another one there, so we could fill up some carriages and then some more carriages. Well, wouldn't be there, would it? There. Okay, so if we put one there, then that would fill up the first 4. This would shunt forwards. We could fill another 4. That would work. And there are some other tricks you can do. So always build trains for mega bases with pairs of locomotives next to each other, because that keeps everything in stride. That's just one of those things. So always an even number of carriages, even number of locomotives. Right. So if we if we mine like this, then we end up with wagons full of ore, full of copper or iron ore. So then the question is, what do you do with wagons of ore to, for example, make steel? Okay, so let's design a steel smelter. Okay, and a train station. Okay. So, and then we'll put down 4 carriages just because I find it easier to work with things there. Okay. And do I have a bit of coal? A bit of solid fuel, that'll do. Okay. I just really don't like flashing lights. So, let's imagine we're going to unload this. Okay. We're going to unload with a stack inserter because we want the train to be emptied as efficiently as possible with as few swings as possible. That means stack inserters. All right. Then we need this to go into a smelter. Now let's put the smelter down in the obvious place first of all, which is there. Okay. So we can put beacons there, there. Okay, magically that lines up. All right. The problem here, I think. Let's put that there. Okay, this is horribly beacon aligned. Do you see this is lined up here? That means we can't get maximum beacon coverage. To make it maximum, we need to shift this out 1. Okay. Now, what's the implication of that? The implication of that is that we are feeding this through with a long-handed inserter. And I'm pretty sure we've established that a long-handed inserter can't actually... Whoops. Can't actually keep up. All right, so here, let's put this in long hands. Okay. So we'd be looking at something like that. Okay. And this requires 1.2 long-handed inserters for the ore and 1.4 for the plates. So clearly that is not going to keep up. So, since this will not keep up, and I'm paranoid about running things at full speed, perhaps I shouldn't be, but if I'm relaxed about not running potion machines at full speed. I'm not relaxed about running smelters slow because, as you've seen, the smelters are the dominant thing. Right, so the smelters have to be efficient. This is the other way to do it. To use boxes as belts. And that does work. It will run at full speed. Okay, so then we could take this again. So this is now a steel build. It's turning ore into steel. And this is where we find out if the stride has worked. No. Okay. So I need to lose one square somewhere here. Okay, so I think we can do this by squeezing... no, the problem is this two-tile alignment thing. So we can put rail here, and we can put rail here. But we need rail one tile between those. So that means somewhere in this whole contraption we need to break the odd even striding. Except we've already seen there is nowhere in this... there's nowhere in the input side of this process which can cope. However, the output side can cope. Alright, so let's move these up one. Move these up one. Then we need a box. Onto the train. Right. So there's definitely no way we can do this with a green. We can do this with a long hand. That's fine. Okay, so that's our steel build. Let's copy that. One. So do we have issues with rail? One. Yeah, that's good. All right, let's take all of this away. So. Okay, so then these need to move over one. Okay. So what's the downside of this? So the major downside of this design is we are going to end up underclocking the iron smelters because the steel smelter won't be able to consume quite all the ore. The reason for that is that the steel smelter So there's a 1.2 bonus for the iron smelter. So there's a 0.2 loss because we're only feeding into a single steel smelter. This on its own. Sorry. Let's keep that going for a little while. This on its own, in long-handed inserters, takes in 1.21 long-hand inserters. The output 1.5 is clearly more than we can cope. However, this is running with a productivity total of 1.2, and we can only consume a productivity of 1. So I'm wondering if we can actually compress all of this up to a red arm, get rid of one of the boxes, and have no difference in speed. Right, and I think the only way to test that is to actually test it. So pull that out. We're going to have a duplicating cargo wagon. Okay, that is going to duplicate ore. Great, and we're going to have a voiding cargo wagon here, which is going to eat the iron, sorry, the steel. And we are going to track the production for a little bit while it settles down. Because basically I want to see if putting in an extra red hand inserter and therefore losing a box and 2 stack inserters from the build has any effect on the production. Okay, so the iron ore is going to level out at 3.2k. The steel is going to level out at just below 800. Okay, yeah, we have a match of production and consumption at 3.1 for the iron. There's probably a bit of a buffering effect as boxes load. There we go. Okay, so we're producing 3.2-ish, rounding error. We're consuming 3.1, 3.2-ish, rounding error. And this is around 750. 755. Okay, and what should this be if everything was running at full speed? So items per minute. Okay, that's not even close. 360. And is that's the only thing running? Let's check there's nothing else running. Oh. That was a mistake. Okay, let's let this finish. So this should run dry in just a minute. So we should be at 360. So the cost of this build is the arms pulling off belts. And while belt mechanics are highly optimized, they're not free. Arms moving between boxes are much cheaper. And in fact, the standard improvement to this is to widen this out. Have one lot of arm pulling off the belt into a box and then have another arm pulling from the box into the machine. That allows the box to be filled up whenever the arm is able. So there's only one weight condition there to synchronize on. And then from the box into the machine, again, because the box has always got items in, there's only one thing to synchronize on, which is the machine wanting things. That is more efficient than pulling directly off the belt, because you have to synchronize picking up the items with there being space to put them in. Okay, so let's have a look here. So this is now running. So Right, we are now running at 300 and something and 48, 60. Right, so this will need to run through so we can actually see the real numbers. And let's remind us what the real numbers are. Okay, so 360. We're not a million miles away from that, bearing in mind we are running a single pair of production machines, which is about the least stable way to measure it, right? Okay, so we are almost bang on 360. So this is running at full capacity. 301 and 60. Can't argue. All right. So that's running at full capacity. Now, let's replace that with a long arm inserter. All right. So we can't do anything about this. Okay, so production of plate has definitely dropped. 300 to 268. We were expecting that. It should have taken it from a 1.2 to a 1. So that's a reduction of 1/6. So then the question is, has it impacted our steel production? Okay, and the answer is no, it hasn't. So we have the same steel production despite the iron smelter being underclocked. And we've got rid of 2 stack inserters, replaced them with 1 long arm inserter. So that's a valid, viable steel build. It means every 5 units we need a 6th one, where in the belt-based build we didn't. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arms. 2 reds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stack inserters. 6 stacks, 2 reds. Okay. This has lots of reds. Let's take one of the intermediates. So you have 1, 2, 3. So there's obviously much fewer arms here. So then it's basically it's a question as to whether the belt mechanics. So even here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so there's fewer arms in this build. So then it's a... Basically, is this more efficient because all the arms are moving between containers? Or is this more efficient because... Sorry, is this more efficient because every 5th iron smelter, you get a steel smelter. Extra bonus. And the answer is, I do not know. I don't know whether the belts are more efficient or this is more efficient. But I like this build. I like the elegance of it. I like that the underclocking doesn't affect the production. So this is what I'm going to go with for steel. Cool, so we have a steel build. So what will happen is we will ship ore directly from the direct mining into steel smelters, and that will go on. Okay, so where else do we use iron. Right, and the answer basically is we use it in green circuits. So what does an efficient green circuit build look like? And let's go over here, start thinking. Okay, so let's start off with a green circuit build where we do not need to worry about space constraints. Okay. If we built, yeah. Okay, so what you want for a high beacon coverage green circuit build, there's basically two ways to do it. If this is the coils, and this is the circuits. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Okay. And it's up to you how you get your copper and iron in and how you get your product out. Dealer's choice, really. Let's pretend it's coming in on the side because we've left a gap here that gives us belt access both sides. Okay, if we're doing this with bots, you'd bring in bots. You'd bring in material and bots and send it out on bots. That's a lot of iron plate and copper plate to be moving by bot. So I think I would rather do things early in the pipeline before the compression with direct train feed. Okay, now this is where things get a bit more hairy. This has 14 effect sources. Okay, which is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Right, there are other ways to do this. So let's go over here. Take a pair of beacons. Okay. Take away this. And we're going to cap these off at 1 stack each. Okay. You may have to cap them off at 2 just because of the latency issues. Grab that. That can go there. Okay, so this is a close beacon version. You bring ore for both of them in from the side, feeds through, and then you somehow have to get your green circuits out. All right. Now you can widen them out this way to make it a bit easier. Let's imagine it goes out to the other side. So remember, these had 14 effect sources. This has 15. So this is the faster build. So it's faster by a factor of 50% on top of however fast the previous one was. Okay. So this has a crafting speed of 6.75 plus 440. This has a crafting speed of 7.375, 490. 440 to 490 is 50%, right? This is the better build. This is an easier build to build. And we only have the 2 arms feeding through here. Whereas on this one, we have 4 arms. So, again, do you want extra arms but with an extra faster build, or fewer arms, and assume that fewer arms means more efficient. Now, in principle, I believe this should be the more efficient build, because these chests here allow this machine to run at a slightly different cycle to this machine, whereas here these machines have to be in much tighter lockstep. However, one coil machine is something like 0.97 of what's needed to run one circuit machine. So the circuit machine is, on average, empty of coils. So whenever the coil machine has coils, it can give them on. Okay. This produces how many stack inserters worth of green circuits? I'm pretty sure it's 1. Yeah, 0.6. Okay, so that's easily... You can easily take this with a stack inserter. Now, let's imagine we're building this with trains. So we have a train. This train is going to be kicking out copper. And in fact, given what we have said so far, this train should be kicking out copper ore. However, how many plates does this require a minute? 810. Okay. And how many does this produce a minute? 300. So I would need 3 smelters, 3 copper smelters to feed this one coil machine at full speed. Okay, now when you look at it like that, perhaps the solution isn't to run this at full speed. Perhaps the solution is to run this at the speed which one full speed smelter can run it at. So let's imagine we take 2 of these. All right. Okay. Then let's imagine, and I have no idea how this will work because I have never the issue here is, first of all, there's no way to get a stack inserter between them. Secondly, we just can't get the beacon coverage on this. Now, the lack of beacon coverage may not be the issue because we're massively underfeeding these. Okay. So that hits, that hits. So I think that tiles. That's, yeah. So these are much, much slower. Okay, so that would put out the problem being, what does it put out to? Okay. Right, so this would produce 3.9 long-handed inserters worth of material. Except it's underclocked by a factor of 3. So it's still 1 point something. That's still too much. Okay. So if that was buffered at 2000 and that was buffered at 2000, then that's one train full. Let's check these are all capped. All right. Except we have a similar problem to before, which is that this contraption is running underclocked. We're already underclocked on the greens, so let's put that back. Okay. So we bring in a train, which is copper. Let's put down the creative there and there. All right. So this would be bringing in iron ore. This would be bringing in copper ore. Okay. And this is going into avoiding chest here and let's see if this is, yeah, this is backed up. Right, that's bad. This is backed up on moving material. All right, so take that out. Move that back one. With an intermediate box. The reason I always put an intermediate box down is because not having intermediate boxes is just horrendous for UPS. Any item dropped on the floor it just eats UPS. Okay. So that's running fairly well. All right, so this can't get rid of its material. So we need to gain, and this is all as good as it gets. Okay, what else do we have? A car. And that works. So this is running effectively at the full speed that it can, given what it can. And And this would produce 800 and something, which is, let's face it, 800 and something is nowhere near 12. Alright, let's get that fueled before I have a seizure. But, despite it not being the same as 12, it is running at full speed, which is the most UPS efficient thing for it to be doing. Okay, let's see. Oh, excuse me. Right. I'm just going to check we can't move this. No, we can't. Can't move that in because there's a car in the way. So that's as good as we can get. Okay, we're now running slower. Okay, this is capped now that we've run through the copper buffer. This is now capped by smelting. The smelting is running as fast as it can. Okay, so we're now down to basically the copper. Okay, and this is running at 400, say. Out of 800. So it's only running at half the speed it could. Because it can't get the copper. Is that acceptable? Because we've had to add in a bunch of extra arms and things to make this all pass through correctly. Whereas this... it's not clear how to feed it, but it is clear that it's running efficiently. Do I just take the slope reduction on the nose? If you're worrying about filling all the carriages, that's not a problem. We take the whole of this, we mirror it, and that fills up the matching carriage. Okay, is there another way to do this? Let's kill these trains off. Right. Let's just double check. So one of these running full pelt produces 300-ish per minute. This consumes 800 and something. So that's nearly 3. So let's copy this. All right. We will. So I need 885. I need something that divides into 885 roughly. All right. So that's 256. Three and a third is not a good number. Just check that I got that correct. 885s, sorry. .45, so nearly 3.5. So 7 of these to 2 coil machines. What I'm wondering is, off the train, then straight into a passive provider. So we smelt directly into passive providers. Then we have the iron and copper being smelted either side of a coil and circuits thing, which is going either side of a train and then feeding directly into the train. And perhaps we can lose 2 beacons from the green circuit machine without... Let's try this. Okay. So how are we here? Okay, we are still overclocked on the coils. We're overclocked on the coils if we do it like this. Okay. We're still overclocked on the coils, so you need that final beacon on the green circuit machine to make the green circuit machine outstripping the coils. Okay, what if we took something like this? Move these. Because we can either bring train tracks like that or train tracks like this. We've already established we need... Did we? How many... Okay, so we can do this with one stack inserter through. We can't... Okay, so we can use 2 intermediate boxes to get onto the train. take that out, put that there. Okay. There we are. Okay, so then requester. So this is going to request not coils. Okay. And then this loads not via bots, it loads directly onto the train. This is some next level batchittery here. Alright, so then we can load onto a carriage and carriage. Yep. This is one of those forgive them for what they do type situations, isn't it? So then we could put a line in there. Okay, let's grab this. Okay, we'll have to adjust beacons in a moment. Maybe we won't actually. There's no reason that this needs to be there, is there? Get rid of that. Okay, so that. Right. So, rail boxes smelting. Smelting. Provider. Okay, so we need so that would give us 1 iron, 1 copper. But I need 3 iron, 3 copper. double check. To keep this fed, we need 885. Okay, let's put some ore in this. 279. Just over 3. And we've got 2. Grab this. Another one there. Okay, does that look right? Yep. Oh, striding problem. All right. So let's fix that. Those are good. So this is lining up badly. We need an extra space somewhere. 367, 367. So that's correct. The problem is in here somewhere. Okay. Ah, we've got no gap for the copper. That's the problem. Okay. But that's already as far back as we can go. Yeah, so we're not... These builds are not keeping stride. I need an extra gap between this and this. So we were there, move it up 1. Okay. This can't be moved down. That could be moved up. I'm going to try and line up the beacons both sides. Okay, so this is going in there. We have still slid 1 tile. I need to gain 1 tile in this somehow. Okay, move those down 1. There is no tile to gain. Okay. Did I kill the calculator? Yep, I did. Okay, that would still only be enough iron or copper for one of these. Let's get a Roboport just to see. Okay. So something like that. Okay, so we could take this and mirror it. Okay, that would give us 4 smelters, which would be enough for either the iron or the copper. Let's... Right. Okay, so I'm well up on iron smelting here. But if I just did that, I'm down. Well, I'm 0.2 down. And then I would need the same for copper. So I think I'm coming back to basically 2 alternatives here. I either run the circuit machines massively under speed at 400 rather than 1200. The expected here was 8, but I can only manage 4 because it's capped by the copper coil. So that's one option. And that at least means that we have a sensible number of smelters. Or we have something like this, where we have lots of bot traffic for exactly the items we want to avoid traffic. Okay, is there any way we can improve this situation? Because if we could double... if we could double the copper and iron smelting, then we can double the production. The problem is we have to double it by width. Well, there is a solution. Which is passive provider. Cap. Okay, that is a solution. Let's put a small number of bots. Okay, these are there. Put the duplicated wagons back down. Yep, check these are all there. Alright, so this is copper. Iron. Okay, that's using a lot of bots. So that's using 40 of the 50 bots purely here. Let's put another load in just because I want to make sure. Oh no, sorry, I've misread. Okay, so this is using not many bots. This is using about 10. Okay. And production here is up at the 800, which is close to the theoretical maximum. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's auto trash. Well, first of all, $50 is fine. Auto trash this down to 50. There we are. All right. Now, where could we put one of these? Could put one there. Okay, so that's near the pickup, which is as good a place as any to be. Okay, let's come down. I've run out of space. Cut that. We're in an infinite world, and I ran out of space. Okay. All right, so if we had voiding here and here, there's obviously some tricks to be done lining this build all up. But that would load both carriages. We have two separate bot networks, which is pretty cool. Let's do 8 for now. Right, that's too big to cover. Four's pretty easy to cover. All right. So, copper, 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 iron, 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 iron. Power. Put 25 in there, 25 in there. What's going on here? Okay, this is correct. And am I a tile out here? I am. I'm a tile out on this build. Am I tile out both sides? Okay. And this works. The problem being getting the smelting in. So this is what I was wondering here was if we could make the smelting build slightly bigger than the circuit build. Okay. So something a bit like this, with all the beacons moved around so they actually work. Right, so this requires 3 and a bit smelters. Right, so imagine it got these 3. Then this requires 3 and a bit smelters. That's another 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then this would have another 3 and 3. And then that actually gives us room to put in a 4th of each, which then is overkill. But I think we want to cap to smelters rather than the other way around. So take this way and up. See if we can get this working. All right. So I can't do anything about the beacons this side. However, the beacons here are potentially an immovable feast. So 12 sources, 13 sources, 13, 13, 12. Right, this is 12 sources. Thirteen, 13, 15, 15. All right, that's better. So we have 4 in a row. 1, 2, 4 in a row. Four in a row. So that's our 13, 13. This only has 12 sources. That misses. That misses. So how is this 13? This needs to be down 1 to there. 14 sources. Okay. Right, this has 14. This has 13. Now has 13. Okay. Yes, I did just take a beacon out because I think we can actually get better beacon coverage by having fewer beacons. Alright, let's try this again. 14, 14, 14, 12. Okay. 14. 14. So these are all 14 effects now. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's an extra gap here somewhere. Yeah. There we are. Okay. So this has 14 sources. Okay. So these are all triangles of beacons. Triangle, triangle, triangle. Let's take this and put in the... Okay. This one doesn't reach. Now it does. Okay. And how are we doing here? Triangle, triangle, triangle. There. There. 14 sources. 14, 14, 14, 14, and 14. Okay. So in principle, So that's 6 iron. Okay. What's the best way to do this? With carriages. Let's put in the duplicating provider carriages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are going to put in iron to 3 of them. We're going to put in copper to 3 of them. Without picking it up. Okay, well, then we're going to fix the build errors. There we go. And this is good for copper smelters by nearly a whole smelter. Good for iron smelters. So it's not smelter efficient. But it is running the green circuit build at full speed. So we could take out 1 copper and 1 iron smelter from this build. And we would then reach a production rate which was capped by copper. Okay, before this, the same on the other side. There we go. Okay. So we could put down there and there. That covers everything. Ah, we've got the second build. Okay. For now, let's kill that off. Okay, all our bots are working at the moment. Let's see if that evens out. Put some more in. Okay, so 100 bots are being used full time there. So I don't think that's viable. This build, on the other hand, uses hardly any bots. Ah! Okay. So am I a complete idiot? Is the reason this didn't work because we haven't got a car? Right, and let's set the... Well, you can't buffer cars, but... This only uses about 5 bots per side. Oh, okay, that's better. So it's using about 40 now that it's all buffered up. So this is using 40 bots. We are... running these machines full out. So 40 bots for... .3k red circuit, green circuits, sorry. 2.3k green circuits. Okay, so here we're using 10 bots. Plus 10 bots, that's 20 bots. For 3.2k. So it's 3.2k versus 2.3. This is using 40 bots rather than 20. And what else can we say? I don't know. I see the elegance of this. As hybrids go, what does a half build do? 1.6. And we've only got a half build here going. 1.6 versus 2.3. I think this is the more efficient build, isn't it? For bots. Okay, can we make it even better? I can't steal 2 squares. There aren't 2 squares to steal. And there's no way to pass material through with arms without using a long inserter. Yeah, even then. See, this is the point at which I would be taking this and this out. The reason you might not want to do this is a balancing issue. So there are 2 smelters feeding off these and 1 off this. If you want to wait till the train is empty before it goes, you need these extra corner smelters to balance everything out. All right, what other options do we have? I know I'm spending a long time on this one item, but if we can figure out this side of things, then we kind of have a design pattern then for all the other stuff. Okay, so this is the bots plus direct insert. The other one was bots plus bots. The other option would be some kind of ore to smelt to belt. Okay. Now, the issue being, we need to try and keep a smelter running full speed. The other option is, if you're doing stuff locally, you don't have iron and copper. And virtually everything requires green circuits. Okay, so it would be viable to go straight from iron to, for example, underground to belts. That doesn't really help us because we only need a little bit of belt. So could we, for example, go straight from iron to engines? Let's have a look. What do engines require? Iron, steel, so gear wheels, pipes, steel. So you could do an engine build that went straight from iron ore, for example, or went straight from iron. Okay, let's have a look. Do we have a nice... Yeah, this iron here will do, won't it? Alright, let's head down to that one. Alright, so you could do something along the lines of... How many of these do... I only need 3 of them. And again, it's not really worth having a dedicated build for something you need 3 of. Let's just show what I'm thinking. Okay, so you do this to smelt, to smelt, to smelt. Okay, then... Okay, so this is steel, this is gears, this is pipes. Then we beacon this to Kingdom Come. Yeah, so this can be done with longhand and insert it easily. Alright, let's power this up, put in some intermediate boxes because they make me feel happier. Okay. So where are we short? Okay, so we're backing up on those. We're backing up on that. Done a box, that'll keep it going for a while. Does this work? It does. This works. Okay, that's crazy. And so let's do what we do when we find something that works. Okay, I'll figure that out in a moment. Okay, let's add a lot of speed modules. And that rattles along nicely. The whole thing way down on plates but absolutely fine for engines. The engines are being built with 12 FX sources, so we would need to squeeze 2 more in, I guess. But this is a proper compression, right? So you can imagine setting this up on an ore patch, and that is all your engines, and they are cheap to ship. Okay. So then how would we make red circuits? Red circuits getting properly complicated. Okay, so to make red circuits, we would need... Let's find some space. This will do. Right, so this needs 3 materials. It needs green circuits, coils, and plastic. Not much of each. Okay. So, one option would be this. The problem then is, how do you feed it the green circuits and the plastic? And the ratios here, it takes 2 units of plastic and green circuit, 4 units of coil, but each coil, you make 2 of them from 1 copper plate. So it's 2 units of each material in, 1 unit out. Red circuits, I believe, stack to the same height as green circuits. I'm just thinking about what would happen if we doubled up trains. Okay. So, green circuits stacked to 200. Those to 200. So we could, for example, oh no, that's before productivity bonuses. Rude words. Okay. I was thinking of emptying a train of, for example, green circuits and filling it with reds. That's not going to work because we'd get back 1.4 reds for every 2 greens. Okay. So, we have way more greens than we need there. Not enough coils, but then the coils don't, yeah, the coils don't need to run the green at full speed. What I was thinking was something like this. Some variant of this. So the coils feeds a red machine and a green machine. The green machine then feeds another red machine. Okay, this topologically doesn't quite work. Right, let's forget about beacons for a moment. Right, forget about that. So, coils feed across. That's it. So, coils feed across. Then we feed red down. Sorry, green's down, green's up. Coils out. Okay. We have twice as many green machines as we need, but I think that does work. All right. Don't like that at all. Let's just do a parts list. So I'm just going from memory here. So that's 2% under for coils, but we're also 4%, nearly 5% over for circuits. That's fine. So maybe we move the green circuits by bot. We can move something by bot. Coils are the worst choice. All right, what if we did that? Okay. Plastic is another terrible one for compression because you put in one coal and you get out 2 plastic plus productivity bonuses. We did that. Right, so then we end up with machines that either have circuits no coils or coils no circuits. Alright, and then there's just no way to beacon this. Except the middle row doesn't need full beaconing. It's only the reds we're trying to fully beacon. Okay, let's take that away. So this is not optimal, but That works as well. Okay. So it's pretty. I think it's useless. Right. So the issue is we are producing. We take in 8 units. We put out 1.4. Okay. Now let's assume that we are making the plastic locally. And the circuits locally. So it's going to be much cheaper to find a way to go from the train to plastic to circuits. And then I could train in the circuits. If I was using a... Right. So if I was using one of these builds, which have been running for a while now, don't seem too bad. Okay, so if I was using one of these builds, I would train in the circuits, so we can forget about making circuits. Okay, so let's work out what we're bringing in on train. Let's get a constant combinator. So we would bring in green circuits. Settings. Interface. So combinators in alt. That's the one. Okay. That's better. All right, so if we bring in green circuits by train, then let's do 2 rows. The top row is what's... Let's first of all put everything up here. Plastic. Okay, and then we need copper. Okay, so that's 3 trains. The alternative we still need those, but we could bring in iron ore. Okay, and then there's another alternative variant on this, which is we bring in copper iron. Then instead of bringing in plastic, we bring in coal and petroleum. Okay. Now, each plastic bar requires 1 unit of coal and 20 units of petroleum. But you get a productivity bonus. So you get out 1.3 times 2, 2.6 plastic bars for that. Okay. So it's plastic bar versus those. And it is green circuit versus those. I have to bring in this train anyway. The problem is I either bring in... I can bring in at most 3 trains without making the build really scruffy. So I can bring in a right, so I can bring in a train at the bottom and the top and then take product out in the middle. That would work. I'd have to move some of the items by bot to cross over. Or I can use mixed trains, trains that bring in more than one type of product. The problem with mixed trains is working out the condition for when you... working out the condition for when you're going to take the train away, when you're done with it. The petroleum train, we're going to use pipes to shift things, so that's irrelevant. Okay. Okay, so how realistically could we move copper into the red machines if the copper was coming out of a train? See, one option is that. And then red circuit. So then we have way more copper machines than we need, each one feeding an individual red circuit build, which isn't the end of the world. But we would still need something this way to feed in the... Where are we? Right, we would still need to feed in circuits in plastic here. We have to do this because this is the #1 highest volume item. So that's the item that we have to direct insert. Okay. What if this was green circuits? Right. I know this doesn't actually work because the beacon coverage isn't going to be in our favor. We are build aligned there, which is... Oh, hang on, it doesn't matter because this is one of those cases where the build alignment isn't the big problem because we're massively underclocking the copper. Okay. So for once, there are other things to worry about. Okay, the problem with this is there's nowhere... Okay. Well, thank you very much. Take that away. Okay. Is that actually it? Right, so let's grab something a bit like that. Green circuits. There we are. Okay, so the speed for this doesn't matter. It's going to be horrendous whatever happens. Okay, so copper's coming in. Okay. Not sure how iron comes in. And then okay, so this would be plastic. Okay, so massively over on the plastic. Let's leave that uncapped. Okay. These are all direct loading off the train. That's probably not ideal. Let's pick that up. Okay. So there should be... Okay, an arm to a box. Okay, and then this should be capped. All right. So that would produce 112 red circuits. Okay. Okay. So, that can load a train. It's a good compression. So the idea would be we can tile this several times. So you would take that. You see what I mean? So then you could fill up alternate carriages here. You would need a copper build there. And that there. Okay, that is just 2 red machines. Okay. So I'm wondering, if we're doing this, do we actually bring in copper or do we bring in copper ore? Because let's face it, we're running these copper machines well under speed. So perhaps we just bring in copper ore. Okay, let's mock that up. So let's copy this. Okay. Oh, didn't mean to cut, I meant to copy. Right, try again. Okay, so I would like that. I would like copper smelters. Okay. Where do we have direct smelting? Here. So let's copy that. Okay. Okay, let's tidy that up. Again, these are not running at full speed, so I'm more interested in making sure this has good coverage. Don't know if those are needed, but let's go with it for now. Okay, we're back into flash fill, aren't we? All right. Alright, so we have an issue, which is these things need to be fully beaconed, I think. Well, let's work out. Okay, so this needs 320 coils per minute. That's 187, which would be 360. So that's fast enough to keep this going, fast enough to keep this going. All right. So let's work out the best. Take all of that away. We may need to improve this again later. Right, what's wrong here? Okay. So do we have an alignment problem? Right, first of all, this is one too low. There. Okay, secondly, I need to lose a square somewhere. We need 3, 6, 7. 3, 6 needs to be 7. Right. 3, 6, 7. 3, 6, 7. 3, 6. This is 3. So this needs to be over 1 this way. Just pick up the bit that needs moving. Okay, that would need to be there. Okay. That would need to be there. There. So this then doesn't line up. Did this have a line up? Let's put down a train stop. No, it didn't. Okay. So we're going to lose some beacons somewhere, which will lose us production. The other option would be to use the plastic machines to regain stride. This bit isn't really negotiable, so we have three of these. Let's grab this. Okay. Okay, the problem being now these have the wrong number of beacons, but these are the important ones. Okay. Right, let's just check how... Yeah, this is overbuild, so... So this still doesn't answer the question where the iron plate comes from for this. Okay, let's get a car. Okay. Oh, I didn't know they would fit in those gaps. They do. That's handy. So, okay, so there's another option, which I hadn't considered before, which is, imagine we bring in a train on this line, drop off iron plates for the green circuits. Imagine we use the same train station to pick up red circuits, except we make sure that the drop-off of the iron circuits is infrequent enough that it doesn't interfere with picking up red circuits, and then we rely on these cars to provide us the buffers we need. So I think that could work. I hadn't really considered using the same stops for more than one thing, but it could work. Alright. I think this is going to be the last attempt at a build tonight. I'm just capping all these off at 1 because if you don't, almost certainly bad things will happen. Alright, so let's wire this up. So we would have alright. This one is going to have coal. Right, that's coal. Then we have copper. Did I do that wrong? Okay. Then we have, for the sake of mocking this up, iron plate here. Then I'm going to fake in fluids for petroleum. Okay. I'm an idiot. Let's try this again. With the creative wagons. That's better. All right. Okay, so that's producing red circuits. Now, if this was running full speed, we would be producing 224. Right, we're not looking at electronic circuits, we should be looking at these. That's 220, isn't it? Okay. So this, frankly, this crazy build works. Right, at what cost? So the costs are in fluids, right? We have to get petroleum into the plastic machines. However, we can buffer up a car full of these, which we can do quite rapidly. Then we can disappear off. Now, can you attach... I don't actually know if you can put wires on vehicles. Where's wire? There. Okay. Computer says no. Okay. So we can't see what's inside the car. However, we could easily have a condition that says wait until the box is empty, then bring in the train. Well, as utter batshittery goes, it's not the worst I've seen tonight. Okay, so the big question is, if we copy that, we can tile. All right. Yeah. So, if this happened, what is the solution here? It probably is to put a locomotive in the middle. Okay, so does that recover? I think it does actually. That's one off to the edge. Yeah. All right. So that gives you only 4 red machines, but it's got the copper smelting on site. Okay, there's no way to do the iron smelting on site. Is there? Is there? Right. Issue is we have to have a box. I like this. Okay, let's see how it works. So, copper, copper, coal. Okay, dump, dump, dump. Except this is a duplicator and is iron ore. Okay, so the answer there is no. The iron plate smelter can't keep up. Worth checking. Okay. Whereas this works, but you need to do the iron smelting elsewhere. Let's head on down. So, there's that green circuit build. This simple steel smelter is a winner. Yeah, so that's how to do steel. This is the best solution we currently have for green circuits. The problem being that we are wasting it's pretty on the nose actually. Yeah, this is the best ratioed version of green circuits we've found. This is not horrendous. Possibly what I end up going with in practice, but doesn't really work well with having these missing machines. It does mean we could move the rover ports backwards, so we could separate the networks, I think. Are we one? Yeah, we're one tile, but then we don't need this, do we? There. Alright. So that would allow us to separate the networks left and right, which is always a good plan. But as I said, the issue with this one is that the central carriages will be emptying of ore substantially faster than the ones that are servicing the end smelters. So we'll end up with issues with when to let the train go. Let's put it that way. There may be ways around that. I don't know. But it's not a horrible build. It's a 4-carriage build. I think we're coming around to all of our builds seem to want to be 4 carriages. Okay. And this was the alternate way to do the smelting. Yeah. 4-carriage build again. So this has way less output than this, because these are much closer to being fully beaconed. Okay, so let's but here all of the plates have to be carried by bot, whereas here half of the plate is carried by arms, so you have basically half the bot traffic. just in case. Yeah, we are basically fine for everything. It's just this is a slow build. Which means we need a lot more of them. Whereas this is a faster build, so we need a lot fewer of them. Right, I like this mining. We'll definitely do that. And what was the other thing we did? Oh yeah, this engine build. Difficult to be upset with this. It's pretty much perfect. There we go. So I think I'm going to take a screenshot of this. It's a weird Frankenstein thing of beauty, as far as I'm concerned. Right, spectacle. Rectangular region. Take a snapshot. Cool. And with that, I am going to call that a day. Thanks very much for watching my stream, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.